Philly Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GBNews was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GBNews exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GBNews came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GBNews exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends.
Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Very, very good evening to you and welcome to Farage Tonight with me, your host, Martin Daubney. Coming up on tonight's show.
Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday.
Donald Trump has achieved the seemingly impossible. After 2 years and 2 days of horror and devastation, we're on the cusp of lasting peace in the Middle East. But as the Palestine protesters vow to push ahead with their protests on British soil, will we reveal the link between the events in the Middle East and extremism on the streets of Britain? And in a sensational Farage exclusive, we'll also be revealing the list of firms who've been granted the right to sponsor so-called skilled workers. I will not believe some of the firms that are on this 118,000 strong list. Plus, I'll be joined by the magnificent patriots who have painted St George's crosses on their herd of cows to highlight the plight of British farmers. That's all to come on tonight's show, but first, here's your latest news headlines, and it's Tatiana Sanchez.
Martin, thank you very much and good evening. The top stories. Donald Trump has hailed a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East and says Gaza will be redone. The US president added all 20 surviving captives will be home by Monday or Tuesday. Donald Trump told his cabinet, "We're going to go to Egypt where we'll all have an additional signing." He explained that the agreement has already been signed, but this will be an official signing. Israel and Hamas agreed to phase 1 of his Gaza peace deal earlier today to see all Israeli hostages and close to 2,000 Palestinian prisoners released, humanitarian aid enter Gaza, and Israeli forces pull back to agreed lines. The US leader also says Iran wants to work on peace.
Last night we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday. Getting them is a complicated process. I'd rather not tell you what they have to do to get them. There are places you don't want to be, but we are getting the hostages back on Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday.
The Prime Minister thanked the US President for his role in the plan to end the fighting in Gaza. Sir Keir Starmer praised the tireless diplomatic efforts of the US, Egypt, Qatar and Turkey in moving towards peace. He says the first phase of a Gaza peace plan would not have happened without Donald Trump's leadership. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper has spoken this evening.
After 2 years of devastating suffering, the tens of thousands of lives lost, of the hostages and the pain for hostages' families, the hostages being held, and of course the humanitarian crisis. So now to have this agreement on the ceasefire, on President Trump's peace initiative, is so incredibly important. And today in Paris, we've had different nations coming together to show our strong support for President Trump's initiative.
Elsewhere, 19 migrants have been sent to France on 2 flights as part of the government's returns deal with France. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood says flights across the Channel were underway and ramping up, sending migrants trying to cross into the UK by small boat a message that if you come here illegally, you face being detained and removed, so think twice before making that journey. The 19 returns, including a flight earlier today, followed 7 deportations last month. Further flights to France under this pilot scheme are scheduled to take place over the coming days and weeks. And Sir Keir Starmer has been given a bold welcome in India, with streets in Mumbai lined with thousands of photos of him and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. On his first visit to the country, he led a record delegation of more than 100 UK business, university and cultural leaders on a 2-day trade mission. The Prime Minister said the UK-India partnership could boost Britain's economy by nearly £5 billion a year. And speaking on digital IDs, Sir Keir Starmer told GBNews in his speech today that they're now about accessing your own money. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Tatiana, and welcome back to Farage Tonight with me, your host, Martin Dordman. Now, brace yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. The moment has finally come. Donald Trump has managed what no other US president could in history: peace in the Middle East.
Last night, we reached a momentous breakthrough in the Middle East, something that people said was never going to be done. We ended the war in Gaza and really, on a much bigger basis, created peace. And I think it's going to be a lasting peace, hopefully an everlasting peace. Peace in the Middle East. We secured the release of all of the remaining hostages, and they should be released on Monday or Tuesday.
Well, to react to this truly historic moment, I'm now delighted to be joined by the former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Olmert. Mr. Olmert, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Can I get your initial reaction to what appears to be an historic breakthrough?
It certainly is a breakthrough. Hopefully, it's the end of the war and the return of the hostages. That's as much as I think we can call it at this point. It's not a peace agreement. It's not even called a peace agreement by the parties involved. It's an agreement to end the war and to allow the Israeli forces to pull out eventually completely out of Gaza, and of course to return all the hostages, which is a great event for us in Israel. We've been waiting for it for 2 years now, so it's a very happy day.
Donald Trump, we believe, is due to visit Jerusalem on Sunday. He even hinted he might visit Gaza itself. We're expecting those hostages to be released on Monday and Tuesday. And Mr. Olmert, I was struck by something Donald Trump said today from the White House, and it was equally important. He said to the parents of the 28 people, hostages who died in Gaza, to get their remains back, to those parents getting their babies back is as important as if they were alive.
Well, obviously, for all the families, the alive and the dead, it's enormously important. 20 Israelis that are kept now for more than almost 2 years in the tunnels under the worst possible conditions. They are brought back to the families, and the other 28 which were killed at the time of their abduction in Gaza, they will be brought back to rest in peace in Israel. And for the families, it's very significant and very important for all of us in Israel. This is a very, very significant day. It's not the end of the belligerency between us and the Palestinians. There is a lot to go before we can call it the beginning of peace. But it's the first step. First of all, we have to end the war, to end the fighting, to end the killing on all sides, Israelis and Palestinians, and to save those who can be saved. And then we have to think how we can push it forward towards something that will perhaps guarantee a different way of life for us and the Palestinians. And I don't think that it has even been discussed at this point, because what we had in mind is how to stop the war and bring the hostages. And we owe a lot to President Trump. There is no question about it. Without his pressure, without his leadership, without the power that he possesses to force the sides to comply with the expectations of all the world, it may have not happened. And now I hope it will actually be accomplished. We still have to wait and see. I will be much more relieved when I'll see the hostages alive back in Israel.
Of course. Mr. Olmert, President Trump today was effusive in his praise for world leaders. He said the whole world came together. He thanked the leaders of Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Indonesia. He even said that we can work with Iran. Iran liked the deal. Absent from that conversation completely were leaders from the West, leaders who recognise the state of Palestine. Of course, the United Kingdom, Ireland, France, Canada, Australia. I want your opinion, please, on Sir Keir Starmer, our Prime Minister. What do you think he got drastically wrong in this entire process?
To be honest with you, I don't think that he got entirely wrong. Mr. Starmer is a friend of Israel. There's no question about it. Great Britain is a great friend of the State of Israel, was, is, and will be. And we have no doubts about it. Question was whether or not it was the best possible move to recognize a state which doesn't exist yet, but that the creation of a Palestinian state as part of a comprehensive political solution between us and the Palestinians is obvious. And I support it. I supported it when I was Prime Minister, and I presented the Palestinians with a comprehensive plan for a two-state solution on the basis of the 67 borders, with the Arab side of Jerusalem as capital of Palestine. So I can't complain that Prime Minister Starmer supports this solution. Whether it was the best time to recognize a state which doesn't exist is a different question. But I don't think that it was a great mistake, and maybe, perhaps, I don't know, but I can't rule it out completely, that the move of Starmer and the move of President Macron and the Prime Minister Carney from Canada and others helped move President Trump to use his power of persuasion in order to convince the Israeli Prime Minister to agree to what he could have agreed more than a year ago, and he didn't, which brought about, at the end, the bottom line, which is an agreement to end the war and bring back the hostages. So at this point, when we are so happy, we congratulate President Trump, and we have no problem with Prime Minister Starmer or with President Macron and Prime Minister Carney. They are our friends, and we will need the cooperation and the friendship in the future.
OK, thank you very much for joining us. Very diplomatically put there, the former Prime Minister of Israel.
I'll tell you something. I not only that I was diplomatic, I also genuine about my attitude to Great Britain and to the Prime Minister of Great Britain.
OK, well, thank you for your comments tonight, and thanks for joining us on this historic day. I truly mean that. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by the counter-terrorism, extremism expert and the founder of Accordis, Majid Nawaz. Where's my panel for tonight? The editor of the Sunday Telegraph, Alistair Heath, and the political commentator, Fahima Mohammed. Welcome to you all. Majid Nawaz, I'm going to start with you. You've been effusive all along. We have to have peace, and today it seems to finally be within our grasp.
Well, first of all, well done everybody involved. Well done President Trump. Well done the Israelis and on the Palestinian side and the regional powers as well. This is something that, Martin, people first, when we mentioned this as the Accordists, that we need a regional approach to this situation, people scoffed and didn't think it was possible. And here we are today. Not only has it been proven possible, it's being implemented. Hamas has literally given up their leverage. They've released all of the hostages alive, and they've promised those that are no longer alive. They've decided to release their entire leverage. That's what they were holding against Netanyahu as leverage. Once they've done this, the Israelis have not withdrawn fully from Gaza. They haven't promised to withdraw fully from Gaza. They still maintain a certain buffer zone. But Hamas is trusting that President Trump is going to be able to deliver on the details of this peace plan. And so I think it's a moment really historic that all of us should take stock. This hasn't happened since the assassination of Anwar Sadat in 1981 in Egypt, because the Oslo Accords between Arafat and Yitzhak Rabin were bilateral. They were between Israelis and Palestinians. For the first time since 1981 and Anwar Sadat's assassination, there's been a regional approach towards peace in the Middle East, vis-a-vis Israel and their partners and regional neighbours. Pakistan has been involved. You know, that's a nuclear power. Indonesia's been involved. Egypt, Qatar. It truly is, and I think everyone should take a moment just to sigh a sigh of relief. It truly is a historic occasion.
Thank you very much, Majid Nawaz. Stick with us for the next section. Just live pictures on your screen now of Hostage Square there in Tel Aviv. Of course, a huge anticipation of the historic return of those hostages due on Monday and potentially Tuesday. Let's get to my panel now. I'd like to start with you, if I could, Fahima Mohammed. Would you like to join in thanking Donald Trump?
What, for him to take over Gaza and build a Riviera? I mean, at the end of the day, this is not something that we should really be celebrating, because it is in line with Western takeover. It's modern-day colonisation, as far as I can see.
How can colonisation?
Of course it is.
How can it be a colonisation when Hamas, a terrorist organisation, will be removed from a dictatorial control of a country, and a democratic system is due to be installed with the help of Donald Trump, with Tony Blair, to get the country back to a fair and just country?
OK. Well, a war criminal...
You think Blair is worse than Hamas?
Listen, he had so much to do with what happened in Iraq, and at the end of the day, he's a war criminal, just like Netanyahu. They're both from the same coin. And also, when it comes to Trump, he has got no interest in the Palestinian people. And Netanyahu, if you watch Israeli TV, has not actually agreed to this. Hamas has, but he hasn't. He still has to confide in his far right-wing administration government to get approval.
Do you want this war to end?
100%, but
so
not on...
why are you not jubilant today?
Because we've seen this happen again and again and again, and unfortunately it's not come to what the Palestinians are put first. It's not come to the people. It's not even about Hamas. That's just one small region that's taken over. The occupation still exists. The apartheid, the control. It is not a fair state. It is not a democratic state as people think and see.
It's not a democratic state now of Hamas control. There are prescribed...
Well, it's not even with Netanyahu involved. They have different military, systems for the Palestinians and civil for the rest of them. So let's just not pretend that it's all nice and easy and Donald Trump being the peace provider here, when it's exactly the same as Iraq, that they have to even invoice their own money to the United States in order to get their own money in. They come in there, they take over, and they rule. And that's what happens. And they put puppets in there to actually say, oh, yeah, you've been taken over by your own people. But it's not like that. It's been placed by the Western governments.
Alistair Heath, let's bring you in. Some people, I guess, would never be happy with what's happened today because perhaps Donald Trump brokered it, and that means it would never float their boat. What's your take on today?
Today is a great day. I think it's a masterstroke by Trump. I think Trump has emerged as a remarkable diplomat. First, you had the Abraham Accords in his first term, which were an incredible achievement. Then you've got this, which let's hope works out. Obviously, this is the first phase. You've got the release of the hostages, As you said, that means Hamas no longer has leverage, which is very, very interesting. But I think one of the fascinating things is how Trump has signed up the entire region, all these Arab and Muslim states. I was very impressed in particular by Indonesia being involved. I thought that was very interesting. And obviously Egypt, Qatar, the UAE and all that sort of stuff. So I think this is very, very promising. This is a kind of move we need to see if we're eventually going to get peace. Peace is going to be incredibly hard to achieve. You know, you're going to have to demilitarize Gaza. You need Hamas to be removed from power. I'm not sure whether that's going to happen. There could even be a civil war in Gaza with the clans and all that sort of stuff. So we've just got to hope to see some progress.
May I interject, because I think we do have some progress here. We've got a major breaking news line just coming out, and it's this. The Gaza Hamas chief says we declare an end to the war today and the start of a permanent ceasefire. The Hamas Gaza chief says the agreement includes opening Rafah crossing in both directions. And the Hamas Gaza chief says the agreement will see the release by Israel of all jailed Palestinian women and children. And the Hamas Gaza chief adds the group received guarantees from mediators and the US administration, all confirming that the war has completely ended. Historic news there. The Hamas chief saying the war is over, hostages will be returned. A significant breaking news line. This comes, of course, as the Israeli Security Cabinet meeting ends and the government ministers are convening. Huge breaking news. We'll have full reaction to that. Thanks to my panel and Majid for now. In a moment's time, we'll be back here discussing what this landmark deal means for extremism here in the United Kingdom, in light of some very disturbing developments we're revealing after the break. That's next.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GBNews,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage with me, your host, Martin Daubney tonight. So, peace in the Middle East. But what does that mean for us here in the United Kingdom? Well, there's no denying that there is a direct link between events in the Middle East and the streets of the United Kingdom. We are, of course, 1 week on from the Manchester synagogue terrorist attack, with the news last night that Syrian Islamist Jihad al-Shami pledged his allegiance to the Islamic State. But eyewitness also claimed they heard al-Shami say, "This is what you're going to get for killing our children." Well, do you think that with today's peace deal, the Palestine marchers would be celebrating and putting down their megaphones, but instead they have vowed to push ahead with their protests? Why? And what's driving them? I'm joined in the studio by the counter-extremism expert and the founder of Recordist, Majid Nawaz, as well as my panel, the Sunday Telegraph editor, Alistair Heath, and the political commentator, Fahima Mohammed. Welcome back. I'm going to start with you, Majid. I had the campaign for anti-Semitism in the studio earlier on. They're having a vigil right now at Downing Street to call for an end to hostilities on British streets. They said to me something quite condemnatory, I felt. These marches aren't about peace in the Middle East. They're about the hatred of Jews on British streets.
Well, unfortunately, again, I think there's a point there. The marches will continue despite the fact that peace, including Hamas, have signed up to the peace. These marches will continue, and I'd like to issue a warning live on air to the demonstrators with every sympathy for their desire to stop the killing, which, by the way, I think is going to stop. But still, with my sympathies with their desire to stop the killing, I'd like to warn them genuinely that they're about to be used as patsies by Keir Starmer to ban all protests. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, has already suggested that she will use these protests to bring in further restrictions on repeated protests. What Keir Starmer really fears are not these pro-Palestine protesters, because his Home Secretary, who wants to ban them, has been photographed attending these very protests herself. What they really fear are the coming protests against Keir Starmer's promised forced digital ID in this country that both Corbyn and Nigel Farage, left and right, oppose. And Keir Starmer knows there's going to be mass opposition to his desire to force digital ID in this country. And he wants to get ahead of that curve by using the pro-Palestine protesters now, who no longer have a reason to continue protesting, by using them as patsies to bring in stricter legislation to ban protests altogether.
Fascinating. So, Fahima Mohammed, why are people still marching if they claim it was about ending the war?
Well,
the war's over.
You can pause the bombing, but unfortunately you cannot do that without ending occupation. It is so much more complex and complicated at the end of the day. It is not just about, and the killings never do stop. It never did, whether it was before October the 7th, during, and really ridiculously afterwards, where they've actually, gone beyond all international laws. And at the end of the day, it is not just about Gaza. The whole of those regions have been really restrictive for the Palestinians living there. And at the same time, they cannot return. And a lot of them have rights that no other person can ever deny, except for the Israelis that do.
Fahima, can I ask you, I've been listening to you, and I have every sympathy with your sentiment that you're against the oppression there, you're against the death, the ongoing slaughter, and everything you've been mentioning. But the issue really is that I sense that that means that you agree with the fact that the war should have stopped. You agree with Hamas accepting the end of the war. I don't sense that you oppose that. So what I'm really sensing is your frustration at the status quo, not your disagreement with the fact that the war's come to an end. And if that is the case, and if I'm sensing that correctly, then we're all on the same page. So can we not, for a day at least, the day which is today, where even Hamas and Gazans, there are videos of Gazans celebrating in the streets. There are videos of people in the West Bank celebrating an end to this conflict in the streets because their children are no longer going to be bombed to death.
But there have been.
I'm talking about now. Though.
Even now. So I'm sorry. It's still happening.
Would you not celebrate with them?
Can I just make a separate point? I witnessed on October the 7th celebrations on the street of London while the onslaught and the fighting and the horror and the raping and all that stuff was still happening when these terrorists entered into Israel and started butchering people, kidnapping people and so on. So I was coming home and I witnessed with my own eyes people actually celebrating on the streets of London. Then you started having a whole bunch of demos already making a lot of these arguments which have turned out to be completely false. My problem is too many of the people protesting are clearly very hateful people. You know, not all of them.
The Holocaust survivors, the Jewish organisations, they're part of that too. You can't just generalise. I'm sorry.
So the people I saw celebrating this were obviously completely in the wrong, and there's been a lot of anti-Semitism, a lot of hatred, a lot of lies, people pretending there's a genocide, which there's never been, of course, people making false statements, people making all sorts of blood libels. You've had a lot of horrible posters. You've had a lot of support for actual terrorist organisations, hence why there's been so many arrests and so on and so forth. And I think this has shamed Britain, right? This has shamed Britain. There's not been enough opposition to this. There's not been enough realisation that something's gone very wrong if we see this sort of stuff. So what I would very much like is these protests to end and for people to celebrate what is clearly some sort of peace deal, and for people to hopefully move on and some sort of real peace to be found. Obviously, you need peace, right? The whole situation is disastrous and terrible.
I agree with you. I don't think they will end, and bringing it back to this...
You mean the demonstrations?
Yes,
or the peace?
The demonstrations. Yeah. I don't think they will end.
Why not?
Because I don't think they're motivated by causing an end to the conflict. They are ideologically motivated, as we've discussed before. The same factions, the hard left factions...
To what end, though? What's the purpose? If it's not about ending the war, what's the purpose?
There are factions in this country on the hard left that are in perpetual opposition to the status quo because they believe ideologically in opposing everything. That's how they believe change comes about. They call it dialectical materialism. Conflict brings change. And they are the leadership of these opposition, these organisations.
Yeah, well, you've also got proponents of the Omnicons, right? Yeah. The same left-wing people who protested Wall Street banks, who protest global warming, who were in favour of BLM and so on, have joined into these sorts of manifestations, these sorts of demos, these protests.
Of course they have, yeah. But what I'm really curious about, Fahima, because you're here with me, not out there with the protesters, and you haven't attended the protests like I haven't. What I'm really curious about is how can we not, at least for today, recognise that it's a good thing that the bombardment of Gaza is going to stop and that the Gazans themselves recognise it's a good thing.
That has been done. People are
here
happy.
Now, in this studio, because this is today, right now in this studio.
Of course, we want to end the bombings.
No, are you happy with that?
Of course, everyone is. Yeah. But, you know, that doesn't end the actual conversation.
But nobody here is saying it does.
Do you understand?
But it's not just the bombings that end.
Nobody here is saying
it
does end the conversation.
So it's both sides that end. Gaza stops, you know, Hamas stops attacking Israelis and Israel stops fighting back.
The conflict stops.
Exactly. It's ending a war.
Yeah. No, the conflict never ends when there's occupation and it's unfair. And you're generalising because there's various groups that are attending, including the Jewish groups, the Jewish bloc. I can name 13, right? And at the same time, there are Holocaust survivors. So for you to say what you're saying, it's just a generalisation.
So are you denying what I saw with my own eyes?
I'm not saying that.
The gross
I'm not saying that, but then you're making it like as if it's all of them.
Are you denying the placards? I'm not. I said a certain minority.
Not all of them, okay?
I did not say all of them.
And at the same time, when we are saying that...
Of course
he said too many. You said too many of them.
Too many. Just like how they were on the
so
Tommy Robinson's march.
So we should condemn
just like on the Tommy Robinson's
We should condemn anti-Semitism and we should condemn hate. We should condemn support
no one's against the Jewish people.
You have to mention Tommy Robinson there at the end.
Course.
We have to move on, I'm afraid. We've simply run out of time, and there's a fascinating debate. Thank you all for your diverse set of opinions. Now, coming up in just a moment's time, a Farage exclusive reveals the scandal behind our skilled visa sponsorship programme. You're not going to believe what we have in store for you.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Some unsettled weather across eastern areas of Spain. Storm Alice is set to bring heavy showers and also some thunderstorms. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira and also Tenerife, but all eyes on eastern areas of Spain. Some intense thunderstorms here likely to bring some localised flooding. A few showers across parts of Sardinia on Friday, but elsewhere, once again, mostly dry and settled. Plenty of sunshine, and this theme will continue over into the weekend with warm temperatures too, widely in the mid to high 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It is a largely cloudy night out there with a few spots of rain in places, but there will be some cloud breaks and then increasingly so on Friday we'll see brighter skies develop. High pressure is moving in. That doesn't necessarily mean clear skies or indeed entirely dry weather. We do have a lot of thick cloud coming in at the same time, and that will continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle, particularly for the north and west of Scotland, Northern Ireland, North West England and North Wales. Away from these areas, actually, a few cloud breaks, particularly towards the northeast and also the southwest and in the southwest with light winds, temperatures dipping in a few shelter spots into the mid-single figures, a few mist and fog patches first thing. But the best of the sunshine during the morning will be eastern Scotland. Now for Shetland, outbreaks of rain from the word go and a few spots of rain continuing for the northwest Highlands, but mostly dry across the rest of Scotland, and plenty of sunshine through the central belt as well as eastern parts. The cloud broken up well across northeast England as well, but actually for the Midlands and Wales as well, we've got a weak weather front lingering here, bringing thicker cloud and some drizzly rain from time to time. That's going to drift its way south, and that means that southern parts will be cloudier compared with Thursday. And after any mist and fog lifts across the southwest, I think we keep generally cloudy skies. Brighter skies will develop further north across much of Scotland, northern England and North Wales, and where we do get that brightness, temperatures reaching 17 or 18 Celsius. Then into the weekend, we start with, again, a few mist and fog patches, but plenty of dry and fine weather for many. Best of the sunshine this time, Wales, the Midlands, eastern England, eastern Scotland. Western Scotland turning increasingly grey and damp through the day, and into Sunday, well, it's very similar. High pressure holds on, a lot of cloud around, but some sunshine in places.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage with me, Martin Daubney. Now time for a groundbreaking Farage exclusive. Our friends at Facts for EU and Stand for Our Sovereignty have unveiled new analysis of so-called skilled workers schemes, and the results are truly astonishing. The number of organisations registered with the Home Office to sponsor skilled worker visas, you know, the visas we were told that we needed to keep the economy ticking over, they've quadrupled over the past 5 years, from 30,000 to nearly 120,000. And we can also reveal that the Home Office appears to approve these registration applications with sheer altruisticity. Yes, the approval rate comes to a whopping 79%. Here's the really shocking and some might say absurd part. Skilled visas, you might think, are a good idea. But here's the breakdown. More than 400 minicab and delivery firms are registered to sponsor so-called skilled worker visas, as well as nearly 1,000 corner shops and mini markets, and of course over 250 hair and barber shops. So we were sold a lie when we were told that these were skilled worker visas all along. Well, I'm joined in the studio now by the National Committee member of CIB UK and the Research Director and the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates, of course, as well as my panel, Sunday Telegraph editor Anasa Heath and the political commentator Fahima Mohammed. Rob Bates, let's get straight into this. Skilled worker visas, absolutely absurd. These include categories such as working in halal takeaways, barber shops and kebab parlours. Skilled worker, my foot.
So I think this is fantastic work by the team at Stand for Our Sovereignty and Facts for EU, because this is the kind of information that we are not regularly being told. We're increasingly told that immigration is essential and that every individual coming across into the UK on an entry visa is somehow a huge boon to the economy. I think when you see the fact that the number of companies registered to sponsor immigrants coming into the UK has increased fourfold in just 5 years, and effectively once they're given this status, they're given carte blanche to throw around visas. Granted, it is pending some degree of Home Office approval, but it really is carte blanche. Basically, if you've given this to an individual, we're really going to approve their visa. I think this really shows why we have seen such an explosion in recent years, especially in 2022 and 2023. And then you looked at the actual breakdown of the companies that are sponsoring these visas, and the figures you cited are more than likely an underestimate, as this was just what was able to be ascertained from the information available. There are likely many other companies in the takeaway sector, in the cab sector, in the corner market sector that are actually sponsoring visas but aren't identifiable as such. You realise this is a situation that has been completely let out of control. This is the reason why the Home Office really is unable to bring down the numbers to the level that most people in the country would like to see them, because it has effectively handed away sovereign control of our borders to vape shops, corner shops, takeaways. It's a ridiculous situation.
It seems incredible that a skilled worker, I think we're led to believe this might be like nurses, teachers, brain surgeons, engineers, the kind of illusion we're sold by the Lineker class, to find out that it's people working in kebab shops and halal butchers. It makes a mockery of the entire notion of a skilled worker.
So the figure that I think really hits home just how ridiculous the situation is over the last 12 months, just 1% of long-term visas that were awarded actually went to doctors. So this is not a situation where the immigration system as a whole is keeping afloat the NHS just through the sheer numbers. It is a situation where we get a few useful, productive individuals coming through, but we get a whole swathe of low-skilled, low-wage immigration coming through as a result. And I think this is really probably falls primarily on the shoulders of the Conservative Party with what they did during the Boris Johnson government in particular in the post-Brexit immigration system. But I really think that the Labour Party, if they were serious about bringing down immigration to a level that people felt comfortable with, would start culling some of the companies that are on this list.
Alistair Heath, let's bring you in now. This is just jaw-dropping, really, in its naivety and perhaps its stupidity.
Yes, I think there's two big problems here. The first is you have 6.5 million people in the UK on out-of-work benefits. That is a total, terrible scandal in of itself. It's insane, right? And so, but given that stock of people, the vast, vast, vast majority of those people are not working at all, and a few of them are working probably a few hours a week. Given you've got all those effectively unemployed people, why not use those people rather than have to rely on immigration? That is a fundamental pathology at the heart of British society and the British economy of recent years, right? We have subsidised and paid for a growing number of people not to work and have relied instead on immigration. And the second problem is very low-skilled, in reality, immigrants, and immigrants who earn very little end up being a net burden on the taxpayer. If you're a high-earning immigrant, you're not. You become a net contributor. But if you're effectively a low-earning immigrant, even if it appears that you come in on a skilled route or something like that, then you become a net contributor, you end up taking out more than you put in, and effectively that means the taxpayer has to pay more. There's a fiscal cost, a net fiscal cost. But those two problems together need to be resolved. We can't go on like this. It's a really, really big crisis.
Fahima Mohammed, you have to admit that it kind of eviscerates in many senses the notion that we need skilled immigration, when clearly, I've never worked in a kebab shop. I'm sure it's an arduous task.
You don't have the skill, Martin.
But the point is, we surely could train people languishing on the dole and benefits in Britain. We could train them to do any of these jobs. We don't need to rely on immigration.
But that's the thing. I do feel, though, high skill, low skill, a lot of people that are coming from abroad are actually more willing to work, and they are working. And if you don't like the actual terminology or the label of skilled worker, that's not the migrants' fault. That is actually the fault of the government that needs to be a little bit more, tighter on what they actually mean by that. I don't disagree with that at all. But again, these people are still providing a service. It is business. It is marketing. It is like, supply and demand. They obviously have got businesses running. They are putting, money into the economy. They are serving certain communities and the wider community as well. So whether or not you don't like the idea of halal food or, certain kebab shops, everyone goes and eats from there. And they are actually doing it.
I don't think it's anything to do with that. I think it's a case of Clearly, skilled visas, in most people's eyes, would be something that's genuinely skilled, where we need them to keep the economy moving. If we need immigration at all, let's bring in the best. That's what Australia has done. That's what America has done. Sensible economies have done that for decades. The point is, this is, let's face it, it's low-skilled work and it's low-paid work. And is this genuinely contributing to the economy, or these people end up being a net drain?
It is. Well, we know from the OBR that those that come in on low-skilled, low-work jobs will be a net drain at every stage of their life, costing us £500,000 each by the time they reach retirement age. So this is a situation where we really need to get to grips. We can't allow businesses to keep getting away with, rather than investing in the millions of Brits that are currently unemployed, even in the million or so foreign nationals that are currently economically inactive. We can't allow businesses to keep shirking their responsibilities. If you're founding a business and your whole business model relies on bringing in individuals from overseas who you're able to pay a bit less and you're able to shirk the obligations to actually train up a British worker, then your business model is flawed, fundamentally flawed, because you're having to use these artificial levers of policy to bolster your own profit.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, of course, but the real culprits are not the businesses, I don't think. It's the government, right? The government's tolerated and encouraged and built a system where 6.5 million people are on out-of-work benefits, which is completely insane. It's bankrupting Britain and is just destroying society, destroying families, is destroying people's lives. The incentive structure needs to change. People need to be forced to work. There needs to be a massive programme where we bring in these people on benefits and force them to work. And at the same time, we need to drastically reduce immigration.
OK, thank you to my panel. We've been superb tonight. Alistair Heath, Fahima Mohammed, always a pleasure. And, of course, Rob Bates. And thank you again to our friends at Stand Up for Our Sovereignty for that excellent exclusive here on Farage. In a moment's time, I'll be joined by the patriotic farmers. Look at it, magnificent. They painted their cows with glorious St George's crosses to highlight the plight of British farmers. They've got a major beef with the government. That's next.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Farage with me, your host tonight, Martin Dorby. Now, here's a story that's truly and utterly British, because farmers in Shropshire have taken national pride to a new level. That's right, they've painted St George's flags on their cows. Yes, you heard that right. Who writes this rubbish? Now, these bovine patriots are proudly grazing in red and white, as you can see on your screens now, turning the fields into a monumental display of English spirit. But the farmers behind this glorious display have a serious point to make. They join me now as the fourth-generation farmers, Sarah Mottershead and Ed Bunning. Welcome to you both. I'm so delighted you're on the show. I saw this story last night. I went, we've got to get them on GB News. A magnificent display of patriotism in your fields. People are stopping for selfies, and you've really captured the mood of the nation. But at the heart of it, you've got a serious beef with the government. Sarah, over to you.
Well, I suppose we do. The message that we want to sort of bring across is that the Labour government just need to go. It's not giving us any favours at all.
And yeah, just the main thing was we did all of this really just to back British farming, really, just because it's hard times at the moment.
And how did you do it? I mean, they're nice Frisian cows. How did you get that magnificent white flank? What, you spray them white and then you put the St George's cross atop?
Oh, they're actually they're belted Galloway. They are, and they come with a white stripe anyway. So we just put we just spray the red flag on them. They're actually belted Galloway.
And they've become quite an attraction. I understand people are driving from outside the area to get their photographs taken with these new styles.
Yeah, no, they're every time we go down and feed them every day, there's people sat there and taking photos and
beeping as they go
they've
by.
all been very positive, really. Everyone who stopped and people waving and beeping as they go by.
It's all over Facebook as well, isn't it? All over the social media.
There's obviously a serious point behind this. No, well done to you. You're on national television talking about the plight of farmers, because, look, there have been multiple farmers' protests and it's kind of dropped from the news cycle, and here we are. But your plight is as real today as it was when the inheritance tax blight first struck.
Yes.
I mean, you're going through it at the moment, aren't you? So Ed's sort of trying to take over his family farm at the moment. So you're sort of facing a few challenges.
Challenges, just which way to sort of go, and it's not just as simple as mum and dad handing it down to us. You know, they can't afford to just sort of hand it down to me, sort of thing, and you know, they're going to get taxed on it no matter how they do it, sort of thing at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, there was the story broke earlier on today. Farmers Weekly are saying that there might be some kind of a chance of a sit down with the government, and they might talk about changing this tax. Do you live in hope? We saw a U-turn on the winter fuel allowance. Do you live in hope that there might be a change of mindset in the Labour government, or do you think they've simply gone too far down the road and they're ploughing the same old furrow?
Yeah, look, like I said, hopefully there'll be a bit of a change, but I don't know. It just doesn't fill us with any confidence at the moment, to be honest. And
I think they will come back from it, but I think farmers are such a family community that we can all stick together, and if we do keep sticking together, we can get through it and we can make these changes.
Now, Sarah and Ed, I have to put the other side of the argument over. Has anybody accused your cows of being racist?
Well, you can ask them yourself, see what they think.
Yeah, no, we haven't done it at all for that reason.
No, not at all.
And it was more to, like I say, to support British farmers than anything.
So we weren't able to go to London and sort of support all of that. So this is our way of joining in and supporting, I suppose.
Okay. Look, it's magnificent. You've really captured the public mood. Thank you very much for coming on the show tonight, Sarah Mottershead and Ed Bunning. Now, moving on, State of the Nation is up next. So, Jacob Rees-Mogg, you're at the helm. What's on your menu?
Well, we've got to talk about the Gaza peace deal and the
extraordinary ability of Donald Trump, because a lot of the bien-passants are very condescending towards Trump. They think he's not a serious figure, they think he's too bombastic, that he isn't able to do things. And yet, he has managed to do something, both in his first term and in his second term, that is really important. And he, of course, got the Abraham Accords going in his first term, improved relations with the Middle Eastern countries, which is part of the reason he's been able to begin the work towards a settlement in Gaza. And it's important to say it's beginning. It's not all done and dusted. It's a very important beginning, and it is only because of Donald Trump that's happened. And that, I think, is fascinating and a reminder to those of the world who look down upon him that actually he's quite a formidable operator.
Superb stuff. State of the Nation with Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg is up next. Hope you've enjoyed the show. I'll be back tomorrow 3 till 6. Have a fantastic evening. Stick around for State of the Nation. That's next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It is a largely cloudy night out there with a few spots of rain in places, but there will be some cloud breaks, and then increasingly so on Friday we'll see brighter skies develop. High pressure is moving in. That doesn't necessarily mean clear skies or indeed entirely dry weather. We do have a lot of thick cloud coming in at the same time, and that will continue to bring some outbreaks of light rain and drizzle, particularly for the north and west of Scotland, Northern Ireland, North West England and North Wales. Away from these areas, actually, a few cloud breaks, particularly towards the northeast and also the southwest, and in the southwest with light winds, temperatures dipping in a few shelter spots into the mid-single figures, a few mist and fog patches first thing. But the best of the sunshine during the morning will be eastern Scotland. Now for Shetland, outbreaks of rain from the word go, and a few spots of rain continuing for the northwest Highlands, but mostly dry across the rest of Scotland, and plenty of sunshine through the central belt as well as eastern parts. The cloud broken up well across northeast England as well, but actually for the Midlands, Wales as well, we've got a weak weather front lingering here, bringing thicker cloud and some drizzly rain from time to time. That's going to drift its way south, and that means that southern parts will be cloudier compared with Thursday. And after any mist and fog lifts across the southwest, I think we keep generally cloudy skies. Brighter skies will develop further north across much of Scotland, northern England and North Wales, and where we do get that brightness, temperatures reaching 17 or 18 Celsius. Then into the weekend, we start with, again, a few mist and fog patches, but plenty of dry and fine weather for many. Best of the sunshine this time, Wales, the Midlands, eastern England, eastern Scotland. Western Scotland turning increasingly grey and damp through the day, and into Sunday, well, it's very similar. High pressure holds on, a lot of cloud around, but some sunshine in places.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GB News was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GB News exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GB News came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national